when I opened my Instagram and I seen Biden released a statement, I'm like, don't tell me. Don't tell me this is about to be him dropping out. And sure enough, by the time I reached that second to last paragraph, I'm like, damn. He let him get to him.
Let me see it bounce. 20, 50s, 100 benches, throw it round. Back in the club, let me see it bounce. 20, 50s, 100 benches, throw it all around.
So after many weeks of speculation, so many people wondering, will he or won't he? President Joe Biden has decided to step down. He has decided to end his bid for re-election. This comes on the heels of more top Democratic leaders pressuring him to step down. Biden has released an open letter to Americans where he announced that he is no longer continuing his bid. And before I read that, I just want to say this. I feel like the Democratic Party has done a disservice to President Joe Biden. They allowed this narrative to get too far out of hand. Even with a bad debate night, I feel like as a party, as the top Democratic leaders, I feel like they should have rallied behind Joe Biden. I feel like they should have pushed the idea of, you know what, he might have had a bad night, but I know Joe, and I know we're going to get him next time. We're going to get him during the next debate. But that wasn't what it was. What happened was they allowed outsiders to see weakness within the party. They allowed the opposition to see those weaknesses and target those weaknesses. It started with a couple of people, oh, I don't know, Biden needs to step down, yada, yada. And then it kind of grew and grew. And all of a sudden, this narrative took on a life of its own. And it became bigger than the debate even. It became bigger than what's at stake in November. It was all about Biden and his mental acuity. It got too far out of hand, and I feel like the Democrats has done a disservice by not sticking beside him. As I mentioned, Biden released an open letter, which reads, he says, "My fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we have made great progress as a nation. Today, America has the strongest economy in the world. We've made historic investments in rebuilding our nation, in lowering prescription drug costs for seniors, and in expanding affordable health care to a record number of Americans. We've provided critically needed care to 1 million veterans exposed to toxic substances, passed the first gun safety law in 30 years, appointed the first African-American woman to the Supreme Court, and passed the most significant climate legislation in the history of the world. America has never been better positioned to lead than we are today." He said, "I know none of this could have been done without you, the American people. Together, we overcame a once-in-a-century pandemic and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. We've protected and preserved our democracy, and we've revitalized and strengthened our alliances around the world. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president, and while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all those who have worked so hard to see me reelected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all this work. And let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you have placed in me. I believe today what I always have, that there is nothing America can't do when we do it together. We just have to remember we are the United States of America." And signed Joe Biden. And when I first seen that pop up, when I opened my Instagram and I seen Biden released a statement, I'm like, don't tell me. Don't tell me this is about to be him dropping out. And sure enough, by the time I reached that second to last paragraph, I'm like, damn. He let him get to him. He let him get to him. And now the question becomes, who will be on the ticket come this November? Biden has officially endorsed Kamala Harris. He wants her to be the new Democratic nominee. And with that, he released a statement that said, "My fellow Democrats, I have decided not to accept the nomination and to focus on my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of my term. My very first decision as party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president, and it's been the best decision I've made. Today, I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this." Now, this isn't just a simple Biden's pick type of situation. So, although he endorsed Kamala, it's still up to the Democratic Party to nominate her. With all of the delegates, it's up to them to determine whether they want her or not. This is kind of like murky waters, and it's all the Democrats' fault, by the way. All of this is the top leaders in the Democratic Party's fault. I just want to say that. But now we're here. And it would be solely y'all fault if y'all make the wrong decision now moving forward. Y'all was so gung-ho with Biden. We need you to step down. We don't think you can win against Trump because look at this poll and look at this poll and look at this poll. We need you to step down. Now that your mans has made this decision to step down, it is solely on y'all if this election goes to Trump in November. Solely on y'all. Because it's going to depend on who y'all pick. We already know you can't please everybody. My friends and I was talking about this a couple of weeks ago, even when it was first whispers about Biden potentially stepping down and who would be up next. I already was feeling uneasy about this election. I wasn't feeling confident about this election at all. Normally in past elections, I was able to have this kind of gauge to feel like, you know what? I think we got this. I think we got this. I wasn't so sure this time. And this is because of what I've been seeing on social media, the narrative in the mainstream media. And a major part of that was the war that was going on between Israel and Hamas. And the many Gen Zers who were flat out saying either they're not voting at all or they're not voting for Biden and they're going to vote for like a third party or something. And all of that talk just made me not so sure that we had this in the bag this year. When Kamala's name was brought up as possibly being on top of the ticket, it didn't really ease my concerns much because I see what people say. I see what the streets are saying. I see what the internet comment sections are saying. And a lot of it is ignorance. A lot of it is people not understanding certain things as it pertains to Kamala's past as a prosecutor. And I hear what people are saying. Kamala isn't 100% the most liked person. And it has nothing to do with her qualifications to be president. It's just people, you know, and who vote? People. So it doesn't ease me none. It didn't ease me none to have her name being thrown up there. So that's on one hand. On the other hand, I felt it would be disrespectful to bypass Kamala if Biden were to step down. I still feel that way because even though some people have their feelings about Kamala, she has a lot of supporters as well who will more than likely feel a big kind of way if Kamala is overlooked. I said this before, and I'm going to say it again. America wasn't ready for their first female president when Hillary Clinton was trying to get in office. America is definitely not ready for their first Black female president. Some even feel that's the reason why the Democratic Party was pushing so hard for Biden to step down, because the theory was if Biden gets reelected and something were to happen to him over the next 4 years, Kamala being a VP, she would automatically become president. And some feel the way this country is set up and the core of it, they don't want that. I can't say I disagree. I can't say I disagree. That may be the case. And what will seal that idea for me completely is what happens next month at the Democratic National Convention. When all of the states, all of the delegates vote for who they feel should be at the top of the ticket, Kamala will be lucky if she gets it at all. But if she doesn't, that will make that theory 100% true. They don't want no Black woman in the highest office of the land. So we'll see when it comes to the DNC. I'm already seeing some of the reports following Biden's announcement of dropping out. They're trying to like steer this narrative, a new narrative now, because it was all about Biden and his age and he's unfit. Now Biden is out. We need this new narrative. So Kamala, get ready, because if you are the strongest potential to be at the top of the ticket, the narrative is coming. The narrative is coming. The other side already announced that they are gonna like veto this. They're gonna like sue. They're gonna take it to court. They're trying to say like, oh, it's too late. And it's like, it's not too late. The nominee isn't the nominee until the DNC, regardless of anything. So that's what it is. But they're gonna try to create this new idea that this is unconstitutional. This should never happen type of thing. You're gonna probably hear that a lot over the coming weeks. Once the Republican side gets their plan in order of how they can muck up this situation, we'll see. We'll see. And it also got me to wondering, because this video surfaced of RFK, who I didn't even know was in the running to try to be president, but he is. And this video came out that his own son released that showed him on the phone with Trump, basically in cahoots about the election, where you have Trump saying something like, and we're going to win, we're going to win, we're going to defeat him, blah, blah, blah. We? Who's we? Oh, it's we. And it makes me wonder who else is in cahoots. It makes me wonder if that's RFK's sole reason for throwing his hat in the race, to sabotage Biden, to take votes away, just so his main man, phone call man on speakerphone can win. This is America, right? I wouldn't be surprised. All I know is all of this talk about Kamala's history as a prosecutor, despite all of that, we have to come together for this election. It is far too much at stake if Trump is reelected. We could have our gripes later. We could hold Kamala or whoever is on the ticket to the fire later. But the most important thing is getting that win in November. Kamala Harris understands that it's not just a shoe-in. She doesn't just automatically have it in the bag. She released her own statement, and she said, on behalf of the American people, I thank Joe Biden for his extraordinary leadership as president of the United States and for his decades of service to our country. I am honored to have the president's endorsement, and my intention is to earn and win this nomination. I will do everything in my power to unite the Democratic Party and unite our nation to defeat Donald Trump and his extreme Project 2025 agenda. I'm with you. I'm with you, Kamala. I'm with you Madam President, future Madam President, and even more importantly is Congress. There are over 100 seats up for re-election in November during this election, and the president is only as powerful as Congress allows them to be. We need Congress as well. So when you are voting, even for the ones who, and as dumb as it is, even for the ones who are feeling like they ain't not voting for the president, take your that poll and vote for Congress. I'm personally voting blue down the line because we need Congress. Congress is more important than the president. You can't have Democratic leadership and a Democratic president and have a Republican-led House or Senate. Nothing is going to work. Oil and water, they're going to bump heads. Any legislation trying to get passed is not going to get passed. But if you have a Democratic leadership and a Democratic president with a Democrat-led House and Senate, smoother sailing. So get out in November and vote and understand Congress, Congress, Congress. It's amazing because it's like, and let's not act like Biden is just some scrub. Like, I feel like I'm repeating that over and over. Biden has been one of the most successful presidents in modern history in terms of getting things passed, in terms of legislation, in terms of things he has been able to accomplish, despite anything you're hearing in the media. I think Biden and Kamala, I feel like, haven't done enough to brag about what they have done. Most times I'm just seeing links of pointing people to the White House, to a section, a link in the White House website that shows the list of everything they have done. People not going to that link. People not clicking around. Like, I feel like anytime they're out on these trails, anytime they're doing these debates, anytime they're doing these advertisements, they need to be pointing out all of the accomplishments they have made. And they've made quite a few. All this talk about inflation, and it feels like I'm the only person that understands inflation happens all the time. This isn't something new. Why it feels like everybody is making this big deal about inflation, like this is the first time ever inflation has happened. Think about, we could just go back as early as like the 90s, even the 2000s, when you were able to take $1 and go into the store and how much you were able to pick up with $1. That has changed. And it didn't just change in 2020, between 2020 and 2024. This has been happening through the years. Inflation happens. It goes up. And this isn't the highest inflation we've ever had. That has been debunked. This isn't the highest inflation we've ever had. I want to say it's down to like 3%. It's actually dropped some since 2022, when it was like 9%. It has dropped some. So yes, the cost of eggs are a little higher. Yes, certain groceries are a little higher and we're filling it in our pockets. Yes, gas is a little higher and we're filling it in our pockets, but this isn't nothing new. This isn't nothing new. And it's not something that can change overnight. This is a work in progress. But stop acting like inflation is just brand new and it's all Biden's fault. Like, be for real. But thank you, Mr. President, for all you have accomplished and for bowing out. It was the pressures of the people. And this is just another testament to his character, because to stay in the race, despite the growing concerns and the people in your ear, it would have been selfish. You got all of these people telling you you have no chance of winning because of X, Y, Z. And you are a man that is for the country. You are a man that understands it's bigger than me. We need to defeat Trump. All of these people saying that it won't happen if I'm on a ticket, I'm going to have to step down. I know it wasn't an easy decision that he made. But again, it's a testament to his character. It was a selfless act to step down. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how this goes. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And on that note, we're going to move on. What else is hot in these blogs? Let's talk about the RNC. Speaking of the other side, let's talk about Trump and his acceptance speech at the Republican National Convention. Everyone was anticipating how your boy Trump was going to navigate his speech. Apparently, after this attempted assassination, he threw away his original speech and he rewrote it. And he was gonna have the direction be a little more unified, I believe I heard. Normally, like a few years ago, particularly when Trump was running the first time around, I wouldn't even entertain watching his speeches or anything. It was just like, bruh, like your man's, he can't help but lie. Like someone said on this show a few weeks ago, if Trump's lips are moving, he's lying. So it's kind of like, why am I even watching this? But I was curious, and I've grown to realize you want to see and hear everything that's going on. Like, so that's where I'm at now. So I watched it. And while watching it, your man's already was exaggerating. If you watch any Trump speech since he's been in this political realm, everything is exaggerated. Everything he did while in office is the most outstanding thing in the history. No one's ever seen anything like it. And that's generally how his speeches are going to go. Everything is in the history. And it's like, bruh, really? That blows mine. But yeah, so that speech for accepting the nomination was no exception. Everything was exaggerated. And while watching it, I'm like, we need a fact check meter on the screen. You know, just like where it just go like this and like a lie detector. Like we really need that on screen when you have someone like Trump giving a speech. Unfortunately, his supporters and his followers seemingly don't care about facts. They seemingly take everything Trump says face value, and it is what it is because he said it so. And it's unfortunate, but as expected, without even knowing that he was lying for a lot of the speech, turns out he was. CNN actually reported, I think they said like 22 something lies that he told during the convention speech. And it's like, if he could lie 30 some odd times during the debate that he had with Biden, which is no one's talking about because everyone's talking about Biden fumbling his words a little bit and all of that, that's overshadowing the fact that your man's is just like out here just saying whatever he wants to say because it sounds good in his ears and no one's questioning. No one's like challenging it. No one's like, this should not be happening. Like it's Trump being Trump, I guess, is wild to me. Some of the things that were false claims that your boy made, a range of things, including the economy, including immigration, including crime. Like he's saying like everyone who's coming into this country illegally are people who's unaliving people, people who's sexually abusing people, just criminals, people from mental insane asylums. Like he's basically saying anyone who comes into this country illegally, as he put it, is a criminal. So, and that's just not true. But yeah, foreign policy, the election, CNN says some of them were wild lies. I love the word wild. I use that a lot. They said other smaller exaggerations. They said some were in his prepared text, like the absurd claim that he left the Biden administration a world at peace. Let him tell it. He just handed Biden and Kamala and their administration this just pristine, perfect, unlike any economy you've ever seen before. He handed it to them, and then they just messed it up and put it in a decline. Let him tell it. Like I mentioned, the election and claiming that the Democrats cheated the 2020 election, which is just not true. Also, that the US is experiencing the worst inflation it has ever had. And CNN flat out points out that that's just false. Also, the tone of Trump's speech, it was this whole lead up. Every media outlet was reporting his speech is going to be more toned down, is going to call for unity, etc. It started off that way. I think his first 2 or 3 sentences was the first time I recall him ever saying anything along the lines of, no matter your color, race, religion, blah, 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 I want to be a president for all of y'all. I think that was like the first time I've ever heard him say that. And that was probably the extent of his unity, because after he gave his recollection of the attempted assassination in that most dramatic sense, he kind of went back down the line of the usual song that Trump plays. They called it his favorite hits. And he went down his favorite hits with all of the lies that started spewing. Apparently, he wasn't supposed to mention Biden's name during his speech, and he just couldn't help himself. He said it not only once, but he said it twice. And then said, that's the only time I'm going to say his name. I'm not going to say it again. It was the same old. His speech was probably like over an hour, and maybe like 30 minutes or so into it, we started getting signs of the old Trump. Pre-assassination attempt, I'm so grateful to be here. We need to unify as a country. I don't know. It was a performance, to say the least, on that stage. And they got it down. They got it down to a science on how to, it was like choreography almost, like with metaphorically speaking, with the bringing out the guy who unfortunately lost his life at his rally, bringing out his fire uniform, walking over there at one point, kissing the helmet. Mind you, he didn't even call the wife until I think that day, the day he was giving his speech at the Republican National Convention, he spoke to the wife. All these days passed. Biden, she said herself, Biden called her probably that same day or that next day, and she actually declined Biden's call in respect of her husband. She said her husband was like a devout Republican and loved Trump and wanted her to speak to Biden, which is like so childish. Like, but she hadn't heard from Trump. Trump knew he was incorporating her husband in his speech, so he made sure to finally give that call the day of that he was giving his speech, but it's not genuine. Trump shows us time and time again, it's all about him. Everything is about him. And that's not going to change. It's not going to change. Someone said, I just said this too. Somebody said he's 78, he won't change. Facts. He's set in his ways. It is what it is with him. I think I actually got another what blows mine now that I think about it too, and it has to do with the RNC, and it has to do with these. I don't even know how to describe them other than like idiots wearing these like ear patches on their ear and like support of Trump, who also, by the way, blows mine, because the day after this assassination attempt, your man's was on the golf course playing golf without no bandage on his ear. The next day, day one of the RNC, your man's came out with the largest patch you've ever seen, the size of a maxi pad on his ear, because showtime, baby. And it's like, and then you got all these idiots putting patches on their ears like it's a fashion statement. Some people consider that to be cult-like behavior. I can't disagree. But it's like, y'all, like, this is a joke. It's a whole circus out here, I swear. But yeah, let's move on. Last but not least, what's hot in these blogs is this major tech outage that happened over the weekend. And it basically affected flights, it affected e-commerce, it affected delivery companies, it affected banks even. So many systems were offline for a period of time. They're saying that it was a software update by global cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike that triggered these problems. They say it was one little glitch in the system with this update. It was a small defect and it affected mostly Windows hosts. So it affected a lot of Microsoft customers. CrowdStrike is one of the largest operators in cybersecurity. They have over 20,000 subscribers around the world, including Amazon and including Microsoft. They're a huge company, a huge deal. And this one little defect in an update damn near shut the country down. Grounded so many flights. It just, for one, it made me think of that movie Leave the World Behind that we just seen a couple months ago. And it just makes me wonder, even though they said it wasn't like a hack or nothing, but it makes me wonder like how delicate technology is and how vulnerable we really are to where this one little defect could shut down the entire country. Imagine if it was a hack. It's kind of crazy that we don't have like contingency plans in place for when or if something like this happens. Hopefully when things like this happen, it makes them second think things and maybe plan for this in the future more, because it's concerning for sure. Aside from the potential of not being able to communicate with one another, when you think about it affecting banks, and people have their whole lives in the banks, and how will it affect your money, your life savings is definitely it's concerning. But hopefully they implement contingency plans, because yikes. Somebody referred to it as Y2K. Even though Y2K never really happened, it was never really a thing. But if you guys remember, when we were going from 1989 to 2000, there was this whole big thing about we were gonna like shut down. And once the calendar clock go to the 2000s, and people was like in a panic and buying all of the water and stuff from the stores. As of right now, the time I'm recording this, a lot of the systems are back up. A lot of the flights are, starting to move and stuff. They said it's going to take a couple days for the effects to fully go away. It's definitely an eye opener. But yeah, that's all I got. That is going to conclude what's hot in the blogs for this week. Thank you for watching. If you rock with your boy, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, it's called Holliewood and Friends, which means I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on the topics I just discussed. I appreciate you. New episodes every Monday night. Until next time, deuces.